What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best class guide in Path of Exile's 2 new update. So 0.3 brought massive changes. In the latest patch notes did shake up some skills, changed items and the class balance. And while some classes are stronger than ever, then others have fallen behind. But no matter if you're planning your next build, looking to crush endgame content, or just curious which new classes and ascendancies will dominate the new meta, then let's get right into it. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides PoE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KATE for extra 6% off. Starting at the bottom we have the Mercenaries, who are in the D tier. The 0.3 update significantly impacted their defenses and utility capabilities, which was their main selling point in the previous seasons. The Witch Hunter, for the instance, was previously valued for the hybrid damage and the traps, and able to handle both the range and the melee encounters. However, the nerf to the elemental resistance scaling now makes the prolonged fights much riskier. Players will find themselves constantly repositioning and relying heavily on the consumables, which will slow down gameplay and reduce efficiency in the higher level maps and the boss encounters. The Gameling Legionnaires minions also have taken a hit. Their damage and survivability has been reduced, meaning that the summoner builds are less reliable. While they can still summon a formidable army, the minions will die faster in the new endgame environment, which makes the Gameling Legionnaire feel weaker in the comparison to the other classes that now boast a higher raw damage. The Tactician once was a versatile support and crowd control expert, but now has lost some defensive buffs and the mana sustain options. This results in longer fights where the Tactician can contribute as effectively, while pushing them further down in the ranks. Overall, the Mercenaries are now more of a niche pick. They can still be fun for the players who enjoy strategy and controlling the battlefield, but they simply lack the raw damage output and survivability that is needed to compete in the current meta. For anyone looking to dominate maps and bosses efficiently, Mercenaries are not the optimal choice. Next up we have Huntress, who primarily occupies the C tier. This is because they're mobile and excellent at range, but their overall damage output and the late game potential has fallen behind the other classes in the 0.3 update. Because while they're still mobile and excel at ranged attacks, their overall damage output and the late game potential has fallen behind. The Amazon gained minor quality of life improvements, including slightly faster attack speed and the access to additional bow-specific gems, but sadly these changes weren't enough to boost it into the top tier status. The playstyle of the Amazon still revolves around kiting and dealing critical hits from a distance. While this works well against standard enemies, it struggles against heavily armored bosses or the larger dense packs, where the raw damage and AoE effectiveness is crucial. Then Ritualist received updates to minion summon speed and the curse efficiency, which slightly improves its mid-game performance. However, relying on the minions and the slower casting mechanics will make it less viable for speed clearing or the high-end bosses. The Ritualist excels in more strategic controlled gameplay, but the current meta favors high mobility, high burst, and a straightforward damage output, which keeps the Huntress in the middle tier. So in short, the Huntresses are decent for players who enjoy ranged combat and dodging mechanics, but their utility and damage just doesn't match faster and more powerful options available. They are playable and satisfying for specific builds, but they won't dominate maps or the endgame content without significant investment. Next up we have Monks that have been improved slightly with the 0.3 update due to the buffs to the elemental damage scaling and defensive mechanics. They're versatile, survivable, and able to contribute both the melee and the range damage depending on the build. Invoker shines in fast casting and AoE elemental damage, and the cooldown reductions introduced in the update make the clearing dense packs of enemies much smoother than before. Invoker's playstyle requires careful energy management and precise spell weaving, rewarding players who enjoy a mix of speed and strategy, but their damage still doesn't compete with the S-tier burst classes. Next we have Acolyte to Chayula, which leans more towards tanky melee caster hybrid. This update improved chaos resistances and sustain, making them more durable for prolonged fights. Players that enjoy the slow, methodical playstyle of absorption damage while steadily whittling enemies down will like it. However, their lack of high burst or mobility makes them less competitive for the endgame speed farming or the boss skills. Overall, the monks are a solid, safe and accessible choice for a wide range of players. They're reliable and have multiple viable builds, which is why they are in the B tier. They may not lead the charts in the damage or speed, but they provide stability and survivability that can't be ignored. Next up we got warriors that remain durable all-rounders. The 0.3 update gave them a significant buff in melee scaling and elemental conversion, which makes them more competitive in the endgame content. The Warbringer stands out for its tankiness and the single target damage. The increased attack speed and armor scaling improvements allow it to absorb damage while consistently dealing powerful blows, which makes them excellent for the frontline engagements. Players who enjoy diving into the packs and controlling the battlefield will find the Warbringer particularly satisfying. Then the Titan, on the other hand, benefits from the AoV melee skill improvements and some defensive node buffs, making them a strong option for clearing groups or the enemies efficiently. However, the Titans lack the mobility and the speed of an S tier class, which is crucial for the high speed map clearing. Then similarly, the Smith of Kitava, with the updated item synergies, has a strong sustained single target damage potential, but suffers in the mob clearing scenarios due to the slower attack speed. So in conclusion, the warriors are versatile and durable. Their placement in the B tier reflects their strong survivability and the solid damage, but they simply can't match the extreme burst of the speed top tier classes. They remain an excellent choice for players who enjoy a traditional melee combat with a balance of offense and defense. Next up, witches were among the biggest beneficiaries of the 0.3 update, receiving enhancements to elemental and the chaos damage scaling. They now have a balance of offense, defense and utility, making them very versatile. Infernalist, with its focus on the fire damage and the damage over time mechanics, now melts through the enemies faster due to improved ignite and the burn mechanics. The players that are adapting to this class will often find themselves focusing on positioning to maximize AoV burn effects, making them rewarding for the strategic play. Then next we have a Blood Mage, which is a high risk, high reward option that benefits from improved life leech and the blood cast mechanics, increasing survivability while maintaining a high damage output. This class requires careful management of health and skills, but can dominate if played skillfully. Then the Lich, buffed in the cold damage and the curse efficiency, allows players to control the map while steadily dealing damage. Its playstyle revolves around kiting enemies and applying debuffs, which can be incredibly effective in the right hands. Overall, the witches occupy A tier because they're highly versatile, capable of clearing maps efficiently, and can handle boss encounters with relative ease. They may not have the raw burst or mobility of S tier classes, but their balance of offense and survivability makes them top contenders for serious play. And now we've come to the S tier, and the first class is the Ranger. He still dominates meta thanks to the new bigger major buffs to the elemental scaling, projectile speed and attack speed. Deadeye has become the ultimate precision and critical hit class. This update enhanced bow mechanics, crit multipliers and mobility, making it excellent for both map clearing and boss encounters. Players will enjoy weaving in and out of danger, while consistently applying massive damage. The Deadeye's combination of speed, damage and safety makes them extremely powerful. Then the Pathfinder excels in poison and elemental synergy builds. The updates, the flask interactions and the elemental scaling have elevated its damage potential across both the single target and AoV scenarios. The Pathfinder's mobility and versatility allow it to handle almost any encounter without relying heavily on defensive gear or debuffs, which keep it highly competitive and new player friendly. The Ranger's dominance comes from their combination of sustained damage, mobility and versatility. Their placement in the S tier is well deserved, as they outperform nearly every other class in both map clear speed and the boss damage potential. And now finally we've come to the Sorceress, that continues to be a top tier class, because the new update massively improved elemental scaling, spell damage and the mana efficiency. The Stormweaver focuses on lightning and AoV, with chains and bounces now hitting more targets, and cooldowns reduced to allow a near constant DPS output. This class shines on high density maps, and against bosses where positioning and chaining spells efficiently is critical. The Chronomancer specializes in the time manipulation, increasing cast speed and the damage over time and the battlefield control. Players that are using this class can effectively manage enemies, while delivering tremendous damage. While Chronomancer requires precise skill timing, the payoff is extremely high. Overall, Sorceress is top tier, due to their overwhelming burst, versatility in elemental damage, and excellent map clearing capabilities. They pair naturally with the Rangers to dominate both solo and the group content, So the combination of speed, control, and the sheer damage output makes them arguably the most meta-defining class in 0.3. So let me know what you think about this PoV2 tier list and the class guide in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 10 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.